Hey guys, welcome to the Into One for Game Rebel Clash set review. We're going to be doing this through Discord conference call with Zach, Nick, and Evan here. We're excited to do this, even though the tournament season's canceled and we have a lost format coming up that only exists for the Limitless Invitational series going on. We want to kind of come and give you some thoughts on some of the cards coming out. In this video, we're going to use a slightly new rating system. We've got 3 ratings on this video. Yes, are cards that are just going to be good no matter what. It would be hard for them to be bad. That doesn't mean they won't just fall on their face, even though they've seen success somewhere else. Cards that we call no, there's just nothing redeeming about the card. It's okay. Nothing that we can really do with it to make it great. And then some cards that are just going to be rated as maybe. That might mean right now the meta is heavy on steel types. So maybe some of the psychic fairies that are weak to metal can't be as good because they're going to have a problem with all the steel types going around. Maybe they need something to support them to back up what the card itself actually does. Maybe it just needs a slower meta. But it's a card that if you can get, at a good price, or you pull, it's not going to hurt to keep it.
Sounds fair.
So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and start. And this time we're actually taking the set in alphabetical order. So if things just feel really strange in how we talk about them, that's how we sort this list.
Okay. So first on our list is Appleton.
All right, so this guy is a 90 HP stage 1 grass Pokemon with the ability Delicious Scent. Once during your turn, you may flip a coin. If heads, choose one of your opponent's benched basic Pokemon and switch with their active Pokemon. For grass and colorless, it deals 70 damage, and the bottom of the card doesn't matter.
Yeah. I like this. This is the team up Ninetales to switch out your opponent's active Pokemon was relevant, and with this, you don't have to discard any fire. So I say yes on this one.
This one's a maybe for me.
Oh, okay.
I give it a maybe just because it's only for benched basic Pokemon, and as we kind of move to like the VMAX format, we might have a harder time with some of the targets on the benches easily. It's nice, if you have a time where you can target down like the V before it goes into VMAX, but once they get into VMAX, or if we go to a meta that shifts to more evolutions, and a lot of times like the bench sitters you want to hit are going to be evolutions, not necessarily basics.
Sure, I understand that with all the VMAX going around. What's next on our list? Evan?
I liked the card until they printed another card that says "Do whatever you want." I mean, I was talking about it in our little group chat earlier. Like, I think this was when the first card was Appleton was released. I mean, shown on Poke Beach, and I was like, hey, I think this card is neat. You can just put a Ditto and then just evolve into Appleton, and then just get a Pokemon catcher every turn. But now they printed a super bad card that does everything, and now just pushes Appleton and Ninetales out the window.
Sounds like that's a no from you, Evan.
Yeah, that's a hard no.
I think if you're going to play like a deck with like Flapple for the spread aspect, you just go ahead and play one Appleton just because you've already got the basic guy in there anyway.
Gotcha. So Arcanine is next on our list. What do you think about that?
That's the one where
to me.
Oh, you can go first.
Okay. This one for me is like one of the trap cards of the set where it looks good on paper, but it's not great. Its ability is called Warm Up. If it has Burning Scarf attached to it, it gets plus 100 hit points, making it a stage 1 with 230 hit points. It's got a 3 energy attack of Fire Colorless for Fire Main and 130 damage. If this was on like a non-fire Pokemon, it'd probably be pretty good. But one thing that like fire Pokemon have going against them is there are so many good fire Pokemon that you have to outclass all the other fire Pokemon that are available. Another thing that kind of hinders this card is like the Burning Scarf. Making it have 230 HP is great, but we're also getting Tool Scraper in the set, so we can kill the Burning Scarf, drop it 100 hit points, and sometimes things like.
Yeah, this card looks horrible.
Yeah.
I guess we should also like pick an order in which we go in. Like, it doesn't matter which order we go, like in terms of talking. I just don't want us to interrupt each other.
Sure. We'll do Zach, Evan, and Nick in that order.
Okay. So I saw like people hyping this up, the Arcanine, and I saw like PGCG Radio said like, "Oh my gosh, there's like a Japanese deck about it." Like, this looks so horrible. The damage is capped at 130. But then you have to have an ability that relies on tool. And like Zach said, you already have Tool Scrapper. And like 230 is nothing in this format. I mean, Brave Blade does like a bajillion damage.
Sure, it makes sense.
Everything does a bajillion damage.
Lots of stuff that can knock it out. I'm going to put a no on this card, but Burning Scarf, I definitely have some opinions on that. That's further down the list. What's the next card?
All right, next up we have Boltund V. This guy comes in as a lightning type with 200 hit points. For an electric energy, it has Electrify, search your deck for up to 2 lightning energy and attach them to your bench Pokemon in any way you like, then shuffle your deck. Then for lightning colorless, it has a Lightning Storm. It does 10 plus damage, doing 30 more damage for each lightning energy attached to your Pokemon in play. So this is going to be the first card that I give a hard yes to on this list. I think it's great for, even in its own deck, it can set itself up really easily. The Lightning Storm attack builds really quick with damage. I've seen a couple lists going around that play like Electrode GX in there to like get a whole bunch of energy on board. It can charge up other Boltunds. It's got, the Lightning Engine with Thunder Mountain, Tapu Koko, Electro Powers. I think it's just really good, and like you can play it either as the main attacker in the deck, or you can play it as a support for either Pikarom, or you could play it with Toxtricity to kind of help build up the damage on it.
Sure, and we have a deck, or not a deck. We have a video about Boltund V in a deck, and we will put a link to that in the description. Evan, what do you think?
Well, this card is a lot like Rayquaza, but it's also more closer, I would say, to Darkrai EX with the Dark Pulse, because Rayquaza, I think Rayquaza is completely different because of the double energy with Grass and Lightning, but Boltund has more going for it. It's got more HP, which is a plus, but that doesn't really matter in this format. But the big thing I would say is the lightning colorless, and being lightning type itself.
Sure, it's a Rayquaza that can benefit from Thunder Mountain.
Yeah, and I remember like Rayquaza, you'd have 3 energy on it as your main attacker, but then it would just get knocked out and they lost 90 damage. With this, you only need like 1 or 2 energy. But then, even if they knock this out, you still got all your energy on the bench.
I'm going to put this one in the maybe category. There's already cards that have done both of the things this card does in the past, so I'll just put a big old question mark next to it. What's next on the list? Yeah.
I was going to ask specifically, like, what makes you say maybe? Like, what makes you unsure about the card?
Just because there's other stuff that does both of those attacks functions that already exist in the game.
In our specific meta? In the meta, said in the game. Okay, so in current standard, because you just said the game engine.
I wasn't prepared to debate.
Oh, no, I was just wondering like what the confusion was about, because you did say like there's already stuff in the game that does that, and I was like, well, what exactly does the same thing? You know what I'm saying?
Sure. I'm not elaborating for the purposes of brevity. What's next on the list?
Sorry. All right, next up we have Butterfree. This guy comes in as a Stage 2 Grass Pokemon with 140 hit points. It has the attack Panic Poison, 30 damage. Your opponent's active Pokemon is now Poisoned, Burned, and Confused. And it's got the Cutting Wind for 2 colorless energy, dealing 80 damage. The first thing I'll say about Butterfree, it's going to be a no. But the thing that I want to talk for a second about is Caterpie and Metapod here. They both have an ability that lets you evolve them on the same turn you play them. So
Nice.
Right now there's just not really a great Butterfree to pair them with. But those two cards I would give a maybe to. There is a Butterfree that came out in the last couple sets that lets you search your deck for like 3 different types of energy or 3 energy and attach them to your bench Pokemon. So like if you needed an energy engine, it's an option, but I don't think it's strong enough to be a deck on its own. The combination of status effects, the poison and burn are good. Confuse tends to be like the weakest of the stations, in my opinion. So the Butterfree is a no, but the Caterpie and Metapod.
I would also like to point out. I mean, I'm along with Zach, but think about it in expanded. Like that's also a thing. Like maybe there's a good Butterfree and expanded. Like because you make a good Caterpie and Metapod, and Butterfree gets like printed all the time. So maybe they'll make a good Butterfree someday. Or if there's one in expanded that's already good.
Yeah.
I like the
Nick?
30 damage. I like the poison, burn, and confused. But the threshold here is you gotta evolve. So I'm gonna say no on this one.
All right. Next up, we have Cinderace V and Cinderace VMAX. We got the Cinderace V in a 10 recently, but if you don't know what it does, he's a Fire-type Pokemon with 210 hit points. His ability is called Field Runner. If there's a Stadium card in play, the Pokemon has no retreat cost. For 2 Fire and a Colorless, he has Crimson Legs doing 140 damage. So overall, it's not a terrible, V card to go from, but what we really want to talk about is the VMAX. So Cinderace VMAX comes in with 320 hit points. It's got a Fire colorless attack cost with counter. It's 30 plus damage. This attack does additional damage equal to the amount of damage done to this Pokemon by attacks from your opponent's Pokemon during your opponent's last turn. And then for Fire colorless, we have Grand Fireball. It does 170 damage. Your opponent's active Pokemon is now burned. This card gets a maybe from me. Kind of going back to what we said with the Arcanine, that it's competing with all those guys who already get fire type support. What I think makes this card interesting is the counter attack. It lets you add the damage that you took last turn, and I think that's kind of important because like the attack cost is good at Fire Colorless. You can like Hyper Potion Cinderace VMAX, heal it, welder back onto it, and counter again for whatever damage you took and be fully healed, which, it's a lot, but like if you're trying to burst like just a couple Pokemon, it's not bad, but like I said, I give it a maybe just because it lacks something that draws it from a lot of the other fire support Pokemon.
I think it's a weird card. I mean, counter, when you initially read it, first of all, I think that's weird language, just of how they say this does as much more damage as this received last turn. It's not. I mean, when you first read it, it seems like outrage from Reshizard, but it's not quite. So I'm kind of like iffy about it. But, a lot of people would say, but Cinderace has like 320 HP, and that's fine. If you get hit big, you can counter one-hit KO them for a Fire and a Colorless. That's just one welder. But I'm not a big fan of it, especially Flame Ball not being good either. Just relying on your opponent to do something to you just doesn't sound like.
So is that a maybe?
I'm gonna say that's a poopy card. I'm gonna say no.
This counter, it really reminds me of the mirror move type attacks that have existed in various points in the game where you just do back to them what they did to you. But this time it's plus 30, which makes for an oddly worded attack. I like the 170 for 3 energy. That's going to one-hit KO the Kaparaja VMAX. That's further down our list, assuming you can take advantage of weakness and there's no, metal frying pan. And
Tool Scrapper.
Yeah, Tool Scrapper. Wow, I hadn't thought of that. Thanks. You've just brought me good news. Thank you, Zach. And the 320, I mean, that's a pretty high barrier. I think you're going to last more than one turn, to say the least. So I will say yes on this card.
All right, so there you have it. 3 different opinions and 3 different ratings on the card. Next up, we have an interesting card in Chatot. Chatot is a 70 HP basic colorless Pokemon who has an ability called Lucky Match. Once during your turn, when you play this card from your hand onto your bench, you may flip a coin. If hid, you can choose a supporter in your discard pile, reveal it, and put it onto your hand. For 2 colorless, it does Glide for 30 damage, and that's pretty irrelevant. What we're going to talk about this card mostly for is the ability Lucky Match. I think if this card existed before Eldegoss V existed, this would be something a lot of people would look at a lot more. But I don't think it's bad, especially when you have like Scoop Up Net, so you can try to get the supporter multiple times in the same turn with Scoop Net. But I have a love-hate relationship with coin flips. So I think this card has like a niche use somewhere. I think like you would play it in like your single prize attacker deck so you don't have to play Eldegoss, but I don't think it's like in every card deck, so I give it like a strong maybe.
It's a strong no for me.
I like the card because of the ability, obviously. Getting that supporter could change the outcome of the game, but realistically, you know and I know, we're going to start with it a bunch of times. We're going to get mad. Someone's going to have like a Tapu Koko V. They're going to have an E-Power, turn 1. They're going to KO you with a 2 times lightning weakness. I'm going to put down no on this just because of the detriment, of starting with it.
Fair enough.
Okay.
All right, so this next card is kind of interesting. It's Clefable. It is one of the fairy types that have become psychic with 110 hit points. It evolves from Clefairy. It's got the ability Playful. Once during your turn, when you play this card from your hand to evolve a Pokemon, you may choose an energy attached to your opponent's active Pokemon and return it to the top of your opponent's deck. Then for Psychic Colorless, it has Moon Kick for 60 damage, along with Metal Weakness and 1 Retreat. This card is going to be a maybe from me. I like Playful. I feel like my pet deck for this format would be like Magmortar Clefable, where you can just kind of like set yourself with Magcargo to throw an energy on top of your deck, and then Playful to send energy on top of your opponent's deck, and then swing for 280 damage, and then you scoop up net so that way you have like the ability to do it again next turn. It's probably going to be terrible, but like it sounds good on paper.
I thought it was way better than it was because I thought it would do any Pokemon, and then I read that it's only the active, and that just pretty much killed it for me. If it was any Pokemon, I would be making up some shenanigans with.
So is that a maybe?
Yeah, that's a no. It's a hard. It's a soft no.
I was thinking about this for control decks, but I realized that Crushing Hammer is so much better if you're just trying to stall out your opponent and make them deck out. I think the ability has limited use. I'm going to say no on this one. Did you have something else to say, Evan?
I just wanted to say that if it was all Pokemon, being able to put.
You're breaking up. Are you still there, Evan? Evan, are you still there?
But energy active, it should have been.
It should have been any Pokemon. All right, I think we got that. What's next on the list?
All right, next up we have Colossal. He's a 160 hit point fighting type Pokemon. He evolves from Carkol, and his ability is called Tar Generator. Once during your turn, you may search your discard pile for up to 1 fire energy and 1 fighting energy and attach them to your Pokemon in any way you like. Then for 4 energy, it's got Burning Avalanche for 130 damage. This card is a hard maybe for me. I like the ability. It's reminiscent of Vikavolt, but this guy comes with energy from your discard pile. And right now, with like Professor's research and things, we have plenty of ways to show your energy in your discard pile. But like a consistent way to get it in there would be a problem. I think like fire and fighting is a weird combination. Since it's a fire rock type in the video game, so that's where they're getting that energy combination from. But I think like I've seen a couple decks coming out of Japan with the Charizard VMAX next set, and maybe that's where this card gets good, but maybe not.
Evan? Evan, you there?
Evan's having some problems with his chat, and he just says he does not like Colossal at all.
Okay. Yeah. I think this is a limited use card, so I'm gonna say maybe. There are certainly ways to get stuff, energy into the discard pile, but I want someone to prove to me this can work, so maybe on that one.
Right. So now we have the big elephant of the set, Copperage VMAX, kind of in with 340 hit points, which right now is the high end of the VMAX Pokemon. It's got an attack for Metal, Colorless, Dangerous Nose. It does 100 damage, and if your opponent's active Pokemon is a basic, extra 100 damage. Then for 3 Metal and a Colorless, it has a Giant Hammer for 200 damage. This card for me is a soft yes. I see where it's got potential. I see where it does good things, but I don't know if it does it better than everything else that does the same thing. Nick, you may just need to step in because I don't know if Evan's going to try to type to keep up.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so 240 is clearly a lot. 340 HP. Yeah, 240 damage is a lot. 340 is clearly a lot. I like these big numbers. I'm going to say yes.
All right. Perhaps Evan will come in the comments of the video for any cards that he misses out on here. But is Double V. It is a colorless Pokemon, 210 hit points. The ability Soft Wool, damage done to this Pokemon by attacks is reduced by 30. And then for 3 colorless, it has Revenge Blast, doing 120 plus damage. This attack does 30 more damage for each prize card your opponent has already. This card is a maybe from me. I think it's a good card. I think the one thing it lacks is really like an energy acceleration method right now, and energy for something that would best be like a drop out of nowhere and come out attacking card is hard to fulfill outside of like a lot of energy.
I mean, maybe
in like the best case,
you could Tapu Koko Prism Star onto it, but there's so many other better targets to use for Tapu Koko Prism Star.
Yeah, you could Koko Prism. You could you could use it with Bolton to store energy. You could play it in Pikarom and full. But yeah, there's just so many things that need that. I think, like, even in the best case scenario of your opponent having, or for you having taken, your opponent taking 5 prizes, it's going to do 207 damage, which is great, but it's still going to miss some KOs. It's going to miss KOs on like all the VMAXs if they haven't been hit already. it still needs a modifier to hit Arceus Dialga.
All right. I think you broke up for a sec.
Nope.
Yeah. All right. I heard you for just a sec. Did you give your verdict on it?
It's a hard. I think it just needs like.
It's a hard what? You still there, Zach?
Yep, I'm.
Huh. Okay. You're breaking up, Zach. Here,
All right, let's drop the call and try to start it again to see if it.
Sure. We'll do that. Okay. Can you guys hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay.
Evan, it says you're muted. Is there a way for us to unmute you? Muted himself.
Okay, if you want to type anything, Evan, I'll read it out for you, and we'll just kind of keep going from there.
Okay.
All right, so I'm going to start double all over again just because it was cutting out. Does that sound good, Nick?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay. All right, so next up we have Double V. It is a colorless Pokemon, 210 hit points. With the Soft Wool ability, it takes 30 less damage from attacks. Revenge Blast does 120 damage for 3 colorless energy, also doing 30 more damage for each prize card your opponent has taken. It's got a good damage cap at 270. It's going to miss one-shots on any of the VMAX Pokemon. It misses a one-shot on Arceus Dialga Palkia. And that attack cost is going to be just weird to kind of pay outside of some energy switch or using some other form of energy acceleration that Pokemon are fitting from, like Welder or Tapu Koko. So it's a hard maybe for me with the potential to be.
I'm also going to say maybe on this one, it's too hard to get this attack done. Just the payoff isn't high enough for the effort you're trying to do.
Yeah. All right. Next up, we have Duraludon. I don't remember how to say this thing's name. It's crazy.
Yeah, nobody watches the TV show. I don't know how any of this stuff is pronounced.
30 hit points. It's got Metal Sharpener, 30 damage. Attach a metal energy from your discard pile to one of your Pokemon, and then Power Beam is 3 energy for 110 damage. I think if like Metal Patch didn't exist, this would be like good in Metal Box decks, but Metal Patch exists, and so it doesn't matter. The nice thing is it can go to any of your Pokemon, not just a Metal type Pokemon. But I'm going to give it a no for right now. Maybe it gets better somewhere, but I have a hard time seeing this being in a place where Metal Patch doesn't exist. And
okay, well, I'll say there are enough metal attackers that can accelerate energy. We've got Melcario. Melcario can do 150 damage, so I will say no on this card.
All right. Next up, we have Ice-Q. It's a water type basic with 120 hit points and the ability Ice Face. If this Pokemon's HP is at max, any damage done to it by attacks is reduced by 60. For water and 2 colorless energy, it has Blizzard. It does 70 damage. This attack does 10 damage to each of your opponent's bench Pokemon. As much as I want to say it's anything better than no from me, it's a no. It's kind of like the card that might be really good at pre-release, but many other places. You could play it with Frostmoth to build up its attack, and try to use this with Air Balloon to switch between ice cues to try to get that -60 as often as you can. But Metal's a weakness to have right now.
Still there?
Yep, I'm still here.
Okay. There's enough Pokemon in this game that do some fair amount of damage and then damage the bench. So it takes a lot to excite me. I'm going to say no on this one.
All right. So next up is a super great, interesting card in Eldegoss V. It's a grass Pokemon with 180 hit points with the ability Happy March. Once during your turn, when you play this card from your hand to your bench, you may put a supporter card from your discard pile into your hand. Then for 2 colorless, it does Soar Upward for 50 damage, and you can shuffle this card, this Pokemon, and all cards attached to it into your. This is going to be a definite yes from me. Way to recycle your support is good. One thing I miss is having like Versus Seeker and being able to run like one of supporters. And so I think like just the ability to use one of supporters feels great. There's been a few decks that I've played. I'm trying to think of something where I was like, if I get this supporter K, but having only one copy of it would feel really bad. I think even the attack cost on it is not terrible at 2 colorless energy and getting it off the field so your opponent can't just boss's order on it really quick. So overall,
can y'all hear me?
Yes, Evan. Welcome back. Evan.
Yeah, I switched over to computer.
Good.
Gotcha. So we're talking about Eldegoss, Evan. What's your feelings on?
Why did they print that card? Like ridiculous. Why would they reprint Verse Seeker? So what I'll say about it is, I thought it was insane when it first came out. However, Japan taught me of something infinitely better. Why on earth would you run Eldegoss when you can just run Oranguru, and which we already have? I like that way better than Eldegoss. But I do like that Eldegoss can put itself back in the deck. And in the testing grounds, one of the things, I think it was versus the Toxtricity deck or some deck, where, there's some points where Soar is a good attack. 50 damage and being able to shuffle it back, and maybe you can make some gimmick out of that. But just like Shaman, you attach a double to colorless, which you don't have anymore, but it's all right.
So
it's not quite Shaman. It's a maybe for me.
I'm going to say yes on Eldegoss. The benefit of being able to get back supporters is huge, and it's way better than that other card we just looked at that requires a coin flip, because getting a for sure supporter is way better than getting a maybe supporter. So I will say yes on Eldegoss V.
All right. Next up is one of my favorite cards from the set, Phalanx V. It's a fighting type with 160 hit points, the ability Iron Defender. As long as this Pokemon is in play, damage done to any of your Pokemon with Phalanx in its name is by your opponent's attacks is reduced by 20. Fighting colorless, Giga Impact, 210 damage. This Pokemon can't attack during your next turn. Maybe I'm wrong in saying this is my favorite, because I think the non-V Phalanx may be the favorite, but the non-V Phalanx I don't think really exists without the Phalanx V. If you have 4 of these guys on the bench, all your Phalanx are taking 80 less damage, which is great. I think like the Giga Impact is appropriately costed and can kind of come out and be like a cleanup attack in a Phalanx deck. It's a well-balanced, so I give it a maybe. We're still kind of missing like type support, but it does feel like in Sword and Shield we're going into the format again where we're going to kind of focus on 2 energy types in each set. So maybe somewhere down the line, we're going to see the fighting support that makes this even better.
You know that the baby Phalanx applies to this. It says all damage done to your Pokemon with Phalanx in their name. Okay.
Yeah.
I was just double checking if you knew. So you could have you mentioned 4, but you could actually have 6. Because the 1 in the active and then 5 on the bench. And then in expanded, you could have if you didn't prize any.
So I think what Zach is saying is the number of Iron Defender abilities you have in play, they stack, which means that you can have up to 4 Iron Defenders working and thus reducing the damage by 80. I don't think Zach was talking about the number of Phalanx named Pokemon you have in play, but just how many Iron Defenders you get, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
All damage done to your... Oh, wait. This is weird. Okay, so if let's say you have 2 Phalanx, 1 in the active and 1 in the bench, would it be minus 40 or minus 80?
It would only be minus 40 for each or minus 20 for each Phalanx V.
All damage. Okay. Oh, whew. I'm okay. I knew it right the first time, but then I misread it. I knew what I was thinking it did in the first place. Like I second guessed myself and read it wrong. I had imagined at first I read it right, but then I imagined that it had said, now this would have been so crazy if it said all damage done to your Pokemon with Phalanx in your name for each you know what I mean? So if you had 2 Phalanx,
crazy.
Like I thought it stacked on stacked. I was like, wait, does this stack on stack on stack? Like how much does this stack? Okay. Yeah. So if you have 2 Phalanx V, it'll only do minus 40. Okay.
Yeah.
It just protects all Phalanx. Okay. Good. Because I was freaking out for a second. Yeah, that kind of just killed the card for me. You'll notice how I read the card and I'm like, oh wow, that's amazing, and then it's like, oh no, that's not what it does. You just read the card wrong. You see what you want to see. The attack cost is abysmal, especially for fighting. It's fine for Zacian because you have Metal Patch and the ability, but fighting is like horrible right now. You know, and Giga Impact 210, this can't attack during next turn. You're comparing that to Zacian V. You know, like why not just do the same thing with Zacian? You know what I mean? And the Phalanx has like 160, so when you get out the Iron Wall formation, it just, you know, makes it a normal V. But I know that you're going to use it for the baby Phalanx. You know,
exactly.
So individually, Phalanx V is a no. But I like it in combination with the baby Phalanx.
I like the Phalanx V, and just as you said, yeah, just by its in isolation, yeah, it's not a good card. But I'm going to say yes on the Phalanx V. We have a video on it, link in the description, and I believe we applied the Iron Defender ruling correctly. I'm pretty sure we did. So
yes, I was watching.
So that was Phalanx V, and I guess Phalanx is next.
All right. Next up, we have Phalanx. It's got 90 hit points. Call for family for a colorless. Search for 2 basics. Put them onto your bench. Then shuffle your deck. Then also has Team Attack. This attack does 30 damage for each Pokemon on your bench with Phalanx in its name. So this is why you're going to play Phalanx V in the first place. You can set up a whole bunch of just Phalanx V. You can start swinging for 150 for 2 energy on a single prizer. That 90 hit points becomes closer to 130 hit points with the wall formation. I think it's a solid maybe just because fighting lacks a lot of support right now. And we'll have to talk about later. Dragapult being in this set is also kind of scary for anything weak to psychic on. So it's a strong maybe with a very close yes for me.
So let's say that realistically you prize one or two of the V, right? So, I mean, in max, what is it? 20 times 4, 80. So the baby phalanx will have 170 max. And then if you prize one, that'll be 150. I think that's pretty nutty for a non-V basic. And as Derek, and you go back and watch the trial series. If you haven't, go and watch it right now. You'll see that Derek just goes crazy with the team attack. I think the best, honestly, I could see myself trying it. Because team attack turn 2. All right, so if you go nuts and get your full of phalanx, and then you go like a welder or something. I would rather see it with welder and not basic fighting, or at the if you're not going to do welder, maybe with Tapu Koko, Prism, some energy acceleration like that. Because it is double colorless, so there's like limitless options with that. Or no, you have the tag energy, whatever. It's not
Twin.
DC for not. Yeah. I wish they would just call it double colorless. It would make it easier. But you have so you have 4 of those, and then you have like a bunch of welder and stuff, and then you just team attack and donk people. I think it's kind of legit. It's a yes for me.
So just a warning, I'm gonna be upvoting all of these fighting types because I've got it in my head here that just, for context for what we're recording in right now, we're in the middle of this lull in Pokemon events, to say the least. There is a bit of a lull. And what I'm thinking is everybody's been playing. There's been a whole bunch of Pikarom. People are getting lazy. They're getting lackadaisical. They're not focused on the new stuff. We're all just upset about no new events. I think as soon as we get tournaments again, we're gonna have a bunch of dumb people who still haven't changed. They're still gonna be playing Pikarom. So I'm gonna upvote this because it's fighting and it's such an easy attack to pull off. And we had a heck of a good time recording that Phalanx video. So I say yes on this one.
I just want to point out that Toxtricity will also be out there. Like Bolt Hunt and Toxtricity, you're going to hit them for weakness. I can't wait. That's going to be so fun. Oh, no, that's too much. I think
this is like a great...
Oh, I'm just laughing about how, like, potentially crazy this card is. I mean, it's like they took that one monkey Pokemon, whatever it's called. Huh? Yeah, I don't remember bad Pokemon, but people were already hype enough about that. I hated that deck because I always lost to it. No, I don't know how much I lost to it, but they just buffed it. They just straight buffed it with Phalanx. It's like, oh, that was a cool thing. Let's just bring it back, but make it better.
Yeah, I think this is a good deck to take to like a cup or a challenge where you can see if there's enough Toxtricity or Pikarom or if there's too much like Dragapult to justify.
I mean, even like Zacian. Oh man, that's gonna be tough. All right, well, so oh no, that would kind of suck. So you 2-shot ADP, but then they just go Altered Creation. Use super busted card that we haven't mentioned yet. Use super busted card that we haven't mentioned yet, and then just win the game.
It's possible.
Yeah, I think that just killed Phalanx for me. Oh no, that might have just killed Phalanx for me.
Time will tell.
Oof. It's
all
cute.
Right. I realize I'm going to have to throw this one in because Nick left it off our list, but it's definitely important to talk about. We're going to talk about Dragapult V real quick because I realized we passed it alphabetically. So Dragapult V has a Psychic for 30 damage, a Psychic. It has Assault Jet 60, and if it became your active, it's 80 more damage. And then when you go into the VMAX, you get 320 hit points, Psychic attack for Shred, ignore all effects on your opponent's active, and then Giganto Phantom for 130 and put 5 damage counters on your opponent's Pokemon and you like. This to me is like contender for a while. It's so cheaply costed. It's got kick support. Even we see with like Mysterious Treasure rotate. If it rotate, if we ever rotate this year, it's still got a lot of good things working for it. Like even not having Malamar around, like the top version of this deck in Japan didn't even play Malamar just because the attacks are so. The spread is amazing. When we talk about horror psychic energy later, we'll kind of hit back on this concept, but
I just want to say one thing. Night Spear on steroids.
Yes.
I don't know if it'll be BDIF. I mean, I like the deck. I tried it in the I think I tried it in the trial series. And it definitely will take the right build. I think the lists. So the list that we had, I think, was like awful, especially with Sonya. Like that was so bad. A big major point about the energy is I felt like I really didn't need Malamar. So the thing, you only need. I don't want to go too much like talking about like the deck because we are talking about individual cards, but single you really don't need that much energy acceleration with this because it's just 2 energy.
Yeah.
I 130 against like these VMAXs is kind of rough. You're really like hoping for those horror energies. It's up there for me. It's like it's my favorite card, like big card coming from this set. I think the attack more so the put 5 damage counters. At first I thought that was like meh. But when you've got like Jirachi in this format and even like Dedenne, Eldegoss, all that stuff, anything that's on the bench, you can just set it up. Because you can just easily go, I'm going to put 3 on Dedenne, and then I'm just going to use Super Busted card to bring it up, and then Max Phantom
There's
for game.
A lot of combos here that can be discovered with this card. A lot of specific scenarios. I say the ability to spread is what makes the card, so I'm going to say yes.
I think it's a high skill card. I don't think it's going to be a card where people just pick it up and do well with it. I think it's when Mewtwo and Mew first came out, I heard a lot of people saying that new people aren't really going to be able to just pick it up and play it. I think that's kind of the same case with Dragapult.
Sure. So is that a yes, no, or maybe?
It's a strong card. Yeah. It's a playable. I just want to say that's high skill, in my opinion.
High skill. What's next on the list?
All right, next up we have Flapple. He's an 80 HP grass Pokemon with the ability Apple Drop. Once during your turn, you may put 2 damage counters on one of your opponent's Pokemon. Then shuffle this and all cards attached to it into your deck. Then for 2 colorless, we have Acid Bomb, 60 damage of hits. Discard an energy from your opponent's active Pokemon. This card is going to hit realistic no for me right now. I think it's really good in design, but 2 damage isn't often enough for an ability where it replaces itself into the deck, which is kind of redeeming on it. but I don't see it yet.
For me, I mean, anytime you have an ability that does damage, there's some way to exploit it. I think initially, and like obviously, it's a poopy card, but I just feel like there's some way to abuse it. We just don't know yet. So I'm going to say bad card.
I'm looking forward to there being some as of yet discovered situation where you're just 2 damage counters short of a knockout and people are going to use this. I want to see people combine this with Turf Field, which is a grass type support thing, which is a little bit lower on our list. So yeah, there's probably some unforeseen circumstance where this is really good. I'm going to say maybe.
All right. Next up, we have Galarian Growlithe. Has 100 hit points with the ability Perish Body. If this your active Pokemon is knocked out by damage from opponent's attack, flip a coin. If hits, the attacking Pokemon is knocked out. For Psychic Colorless, it has Corner doing 60 damage, and the defending Pokemon can't retreat during your opponent's next turn. When I first saw it, I was kind of excited to see Fainting back, but it's such a weird card right now to flip a coin and try to knock something out. And I think the thing that made Gengar good, like its attack was good outside of Fainting Spell or Perish Body now.
Correct.
But just 2 for 60 and can't retreat isn't going to cut the mustard.
For me, when I first saw this card revealed and saw it in a Japanese video, I thought it was insane. And then other cards came out, and now it's garbage. It's a 0 out of 10 for me. Poop.
I cannot tell whether this is going to have the same impact as Fainting Spell Gengar back in the day. So I'm going to just say maybe.
All right. Next up, we have Galarian Sirfetch'd. Kind of 130 hit points, evolving from Galarian Farfetch'd. For fighting, it does 40 damage. For fighting double colorless, it does 180 damage, and he can't use Meteor Assault again as long as it's your active Pokemon. This card's just a no for me. I think like is just underwhelming that you have to move it out of your active before you can use it again. I mean, yeah, we've got things like Scoop Up Net and switches, things to move it. If I could sit here and name all these different ways that we could move it, and I still don't think the attack is that kind of says something that the drawback of not being able to attack again doesn't hinder a lot of cards. Like, we always reference Zacian with its 3 attack, can't attack next turn, but it also does 50 more damage, and it's on a basic, and it has busted draw ability. So why play Sirfetch'd over Zacian outside of Sirfetch'd favorite Pokemon?
Oh, man. Oh, man. Even just the energy cost is weary. So what, you're going to do that twin energy in a fighting, or are you going to do welder in a fighting? I mean, maybe we'll get some fighting support later, but I think this goes back to a card design discussion, but ADP makes like all these single prizers just seem so bad. I mean, even what was it, Dragapult, you're one-shotting this and then doing whatever spread to the... There's just so many outside things that feels like this outclasses. And this also goes back to an article that I read from Stefan Ivanov a long time ago about Malamar, like gatekeepers like Malamar and now Baby Blounds. Why would you run Galarian Sirfetch'd when I can just use Giratina to do, 130? That's pretty much the same. You're not one-shotting anything with Star Assault or Meteor Assault, whatever. But also, Baby Blounds also does 3 energy on a basic that can one-shot anything. So I'm going to say no.
Stage 1, Fighting Colors, 180. That don't impress me much. No.
All right. Next up, we have Galarian Weezing. It's a dark type with 130 hit points. It evolves from Coughing. The ability is Chemical Change Gas. As long as it's your active Pokemon, each of your opponent's Pokemon has no abilities, excluding Chemical Change Gas. For Dark Energy, Severe Poison, your opponent's active Pokemon is now Poison. Put 4 damage counters in between. This card is a maybe for me. I feel like it's got the makings of really good, but it's not as good as something like Garbatoxin, where it could sit on the bench and you can use a better attacker. So I'm a pass.
Though, I mean, whenever there's a card that says your opponents don't have abilities, I feel like there's a way to use it. But like Zach said, it's not Garbodor. But I will say that we have Wobbuffet and Expanded, and we see that. But I will concede that this is a stage 1, so it's not quite the same. So it's a maybe for me.
Hey, I like being able to shut off abilities, but I just don't see any game-breaking abilities in the meta right now that are going to absolutely prevent your opponent from winning. And you've got to evolve it. If this were a basic, I'd consider it, but you've got to evolve, so no.
All right. Next up, we have Garbodor. It is a dark type with 120 hit points with the Poison Pool ability. Once during your turn, if there's a stadium play, you may leave your opponent's active Pokemon poison. Dark, double colorless, Sludge Bomb for 80. This card, at best for me, gets a maybe. And the only reason I give it a maybe is it's combo heavy for the Toxtricity deck. And if Toxtricity didn't exist, I'd just say this card is bad. It is nice that it doesn't have to be stadium in play, but poison and nothing else really to back it up isn't that impressive outside of you turn on Toxtricity.
Poopy card from me. Bad card.
I'm gonna say, I'm biased towards this since we had a video about this, but yeah, it combos with Toxtricity, and and hey, I'm rooting for fighting type Pokemon right now, which Toxtricity is weak to. So I'm gonna say no on a Garbodor.
All right. So next on our list is Grimmsnarl. It's a dark Pokemon with 170 hit points. Dark limitation. If it's your active Pokemon, your opponent's active Pokemon pays colorless more to use its attacks. For dark and double colorless, Energy Press does 100 damage plus 30 more for each energy attached to your opponent's active Pokemon. It's a no for me. It's a stage 2 with attack cost. No dark acceleration outside of another stage 2 in the game that's coming out in the same set. I like it.
I love Grimmsnarl as a Pokemon, but this card is terrible.
You've got to get it out. It's a stage 2. You got to power it up. It's going to be hard. The effect, I mean, if you can get it pays off. But I'm stuck, so I'm just going to say maybe.
All right. Next up, we have Hatterene. It's a psychic with 150 hit points. Mind Hat. Once during your turn, each player can discard a card from their hand. Your opponent discards first. If either player has no cards in their hand, that player does not discard. Regretful Droplets. You put damage counters on your opponent's active Pokemon equal to the number of Pokemon in your pile. It's a maybe for me. I like the ability. Hand always good times. Regretful Droplets. I think I would like better if it actually did damage versus damage counters, because then you could hit the Mewtwo pretty hard. But yeah, I'm going to just go with a maybe on it.
I think it's one of those cards that you look at and you're like, hey, maybe this could be good. But it's not. I think it's a trap card. So it's a no for me.
I included Hatena, which is the basic on this list, just because it's attack, find a friend, search deck for Pokemon, reveal it, and put it in your hand. So that might make it easier to get out Hatterene, just because you can get it into your hand. But even with that, yeah, I still think you've got problems. You're not gonna. You have the severe risk of not putting enough damage counters to get a knockout. There are a lot. The good news though is there's a lot of ways to get Pokemon into the discard pile. I don't know. I'd like to see this maybe in like a Minccino type of deck or something, where you benefit from having or a Roxy type of deck, where you benefit from having Pokemon in your discard pile, or you have ways to get Pokemon in your discard pile other than mine had.
I might have. Oh,
Yeah.
sorry.
And this is like another one of those things too, where like if it didn't say on your opponent's active Pokemon, if it just said on one of your opponent's Pokemon, I'd like it a lot better. Or if I could arrange the damage counters how I want.
I don't
that would be great.
This is a design, like a card design thing, but I don't understand why you say put a damage counter when you're not going to be able to spread it. You know what I mean? It's like, why are you even bothering with saying put a damage counter when you can't even move the damage counters whenever you like? Like, you get the exact same thing pretty much if you just did damage, like Vespiquen or Night March.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, there are Pokemon that are resistant to having damage counters put on them, but can be damaged. So I guess there is a difference in those two different mechanics.
Looking at the ability, can it stack? Like, so if you have like 3 Hatterene, you can use it 3 times.
Yeah, I don't see why not.
To the way that it's worded in this
Once during your turn, you may use this ability. Both players discard a card from their hand. But you do have 3 Hatterene, you can discard 3 cards. Okay.
Yeah.
That makes it a lot better for me. I'm gonna move it up to maybe. At first, I thought it was a poopy card, but I think I might be able to find a use for it.
As much as I like this, I'm gonna have to say no. But that no hinges on someone with just a little bit of brain power. Show us the combo. I'm too lazy to do it myself. Show me the combo, and I'll upgrade that no to a maybe.
Well, do you want me to explain it right now or for later?
Oh, sure.
Let's save it for later. We still got a long way to go on this.
Okay.
Yeah, sure. That was a general call to just everybody listening to show me the combo. But if you've got one, we'll discuss it later.
All right. Next up, we have Inteleon V and VMAX. The Inteleon V also came out in one of the tins recently. It's got Snipe Shot for a single water, does 40 damage to one of your opponent's Pokemon. And for Water Colorless, it has Aqua Report doing 130 damage when your opponent reveals their hand. This card, the only reason you're going to play it is to get to the VMAX, so we won't talk about the V. But the VMAX has, for 1 water, Hydro Snipe, it does 60 damage and can return an energy card from your opponent's active Pokemon to their hand. And then for Water Colorless, you have Grand Bullet, it does 160 damage. And this attack does damage to one of your opponent's bench Pokemon. Don't apply weakness or resistance. This card gets yes for right now. I'm one of those people that I would love to want to play a control deck, but I don't like not attacking, so I've never really got into playing control, but so much. And I think like the idea of Hydro Snipe, bouncing energies, put like some Crushing Hammers in there, get rid of some more energy, and then like Articuno DX with Cold Crush, get rid of a lot more energy. The 60 Snipe on Grand Bullet is pretty good for anything that has basic with it. So overall, I think it's a good card. I think it's well designed, but I think it takes like a little bit of finesse to make the deck.
I really do like that Hydro Snipe for 1 energy, but everything else about it seems bad. So I want to say maybe, but it's a bad card. It's a bad card that might find use. Like I know that might put it in maybe, but I'm gonna say bad card.
I like the fact that the VMAX evolves from a card that also does bench damage, but I'm just going to say no.
All right. Coming up next on the list is the trio of cards that we're going to take a second to say. Let's talk about their stage one for a second, because the stage ones make like some of the next couple cards something to remotely consider. So we're going to be talking about Ludicolo, Luxray, and Chandelure. All of their stage ones have this ability called top down entry. If you draw it during your draw phase and you have room on your bench, you can play the stage one straight onto your bench instead of adding it. That's kind of an easy thing to set up with like a Rangaroo to put it on top of the deck so you know it's there. The one thing that I caution people before they get thinking like this is so amazing and so great is reset stamp and Marnieter things. So if your opponent get an idea that this might be the kind of deck you're playing, and they see you throw something on top of your deck, maybe they're going to opt for that Marnie to make you draw it as your 4 cards off of Marnie as opposed to the top deck, so you don't get that ability. But more than anything, those 3 cards open up interesting mechanics for their respective.
I like where they're going with it, but I don't think it's enough. So I'm going to say no. But I do like the effort of trying to make stage 2 good. I wish they would keep trying. This just isn't it.
This new mechanic is going to be fun. So, yeah, all of those Pokemon, I'll say yes on them.
All right, so Ludicolo, he's a grass type with 160 hit points. He's got Energized Rush. It does 60 damage for every prize card you've taken. And then Mega Drain for 120 heal, 30 damage for a grass and double colorless. This card is only good if you're playing something that naturally uses Twin Energy and a Rangaroo.
That's what I
don't think it's
say.
the best. Are y'all still?
Oh, yeah, I was about to ask. I didn't know if you cut out or not.
Okay. Yeah, sorry. I don't think it's the best Ludicolo to play. I think like if you were going to play one, you'd play like the water type that would all the card.
Sure.
And then in that deck, you could be playing the Magcargo Uthover, so you can put the Lombres on top of the deck, so you can draw. But overall, it's not really something I'm too excited about. I'm going to put this one as a low maybe, because if you can utilize Energized Rush.
I think this card's horrible. Okay, so you're going to use a stage 2. I mean, these cards that say do this times the number of prize cards you've taken, I think those I've never seen that be good. Has that effect ever been good in the TCG?
I've never seen it be good.
Yeah, I've never seen it be good. And then for it to be on a stage 2 is just like, I don't know. When you get out your stage 2, that's when you want to be like attacking. But like if you're already winning the game, then that means you were using something else to. It's just weird. I think it's too much. I see where they're going with it. Like they want you to have Lombre and Ludicolo maybe as like a 0-1-1 line, and then you get out the Lombre and then you go boom, Ludicolo. Wait. Oh wait. You can do it because you may put it onto your bench before. Well, I guess they just want you to go Lombre, Ludicolo, boom, high spirit rush for game, but I think that's just too much. That's too much. That's too cute. I'm going to say poop card.
Zach, I like that you just brought up the using top entry, combining that with Celestial Storm Magcargo. I'm glad you brought that up. I wouldn't have thought of that. But yeah, Ludicolo. Gosh, I'm gonna say no on that. I mean, Twin Energy. That's the only way that card would be good, and that's not even a good attack. So no.
Next up, we have Luxray, 160 hit points, stage 2. It evolves from a top-down evolution. Luxio, or the other Luxio with the item lock attack. It's got Raid for 60 damage. If this Pokemon evolved from Luxio during your turn, it does 100 more damage. And then for Lightning Colorless, it does for 120 damage. Of the top-down evolution guys, he's probably the best, but that's saying a lot. Raid, I think, like if it just said if this Pokemon evolved this turn, it would be so much better since you could rare candy Shinx into Luxray to get 160. But right now you have to go from the stage 1. The attack's like really great cost though for 160 for 1 if you can pull it off, and then the hit. For a cheap attack, it's costed correctly, I guess. But I don't want to be relying on that bolt as much as I would Raid. There's even just the case to say I'd almost rather play the Luxio with the item lock attack with memory energy if I would be playing a Luxray. So I'm going with a no, probably, but.
Oh man, we keep seeing these like stage 2s that look so good, but I'm really just gonna keep saying stage 2 decks do stage 2 things. The only way I see how this card works. Do you want me to tell you how this card works, or just
Sure.
save it for later?
How does it work?
Okay, so let's say you're running an electric type deck like, I don't know, Pika, Toxtricity, or whatever, and you want to run a Oranguru with it. I could see it with like Boltund, with an Oranguru in it. You just have, like I said, a 0-1-1 line, and then if you get it, and then you can Oranguru it next turn, draw it with top entry if your opponent doesn't disrupt you. And if they don't, then you just drop an Evolution Incense because, Toxtricity would run an Evolution Incense, but I don't know if you'd have the space, You can find the space. It would give you a way to have an easy single prizer. I don't think they're intending that this be their own deck. I think with the top entry, they want you to go, Oranguru, draw for turn, top entry, Evolution Incense, grab Luxray, single energy, and then Ray. You know what I mean? It's not going to be its own deck, but it'll be like a nice... I like where they're going with it. It's a maybe for me. I see where it works, but I will say, why would I drop consistency for that? And I do agree. Stage 2 things happen.
Sure. Comparing and contrasting this with Lucario GX from Forbidden Light, Lucario GX does, an attack where you evolve and you do more damage if you just evolved, but it's a stage 1. And you're taking advantage of fighting type weakness. What in the meta is going to be weak to lightning that you really want to take advantage of? I just think not enough stuff. I vote no on this.
But one big thing is that you can use electric power with it. And if you're running, like I said, Boltund or Toxtricity, you're already going to be running electric power.
Sure. And electric power is wonderful. I just don't think that, if it were typed differently, like fighting, for example, then I would vote maybe or yes on it, but I'm putting it down as a no.
Okay.
All right. Next up, we have Magmortar. He's got 140 hit points. Burst Punch, 30 damage. Your opponent's active Pokemon's now Fire Colorless. Then for Fire Colorless, Ground Burn, 80 damage. Each player discards the top card of their deck. This attack does 100 more damage for each energy card discarded in this way. As much as I like the concept of it and think you could make like a great deck to play little kids with, I'm going to go with no. Kind of going back to where we started the video with Arcanine, he's a fire Pokemon fighting to be better than every other fire Pokemon that's available, and he's
I think this card's hilarious. I just realized that it's a stage 1. I thought Magmortar was a stage 2, but then I remembered that Magby is a baby Pokemon. That's pretty funny that
Bring back
Magmortar is a
babies.
stage 1. I think it's too much setup, but if you were going to get a 280 ground burn, if you go to a regionals and you get like consistent 280 ground burns, I think you're going to win the tournament.
Oh gosh.
I just want someone to roll up to regionals and they're in day 2 and they're like, "Oh yeah, I just got lucky every single time," and I didn't even use anything. I just hoped that they had energy on the top of their deck. I used a Rangaroo to put it on mine, and then I just hoped that they have it on theirs, and it just paid off.
Evan, be the change that you wish to see in the world.
I mean, if we didn't have coronavirus and stuff like that right now.
So is that a yes, no, or maybe?
I think
it's a maybe. No, it's a no for me.
What were you saying, Zach?
You can combo with like the Orbeetle or Chip Chip Ice Axe, so you could always see the top 3 cards of your.
Oh my god,
Nice.
Chip Chip. That's how you do it. You don't just hope. You just get I'm gonna a Ringaroo and then Chip Chip and then there it is. Okay, 280. Okay. Okay.
Magcargo GX is already a card in this game. You get to use its ability, and you get to check the top card of the deck. And people aren't playing that much, so I'm voting no on Magmortar.
I want to bring this to a League Cup now. I just want to bring this to a League Cup now, Magmortar. It just looks so funny.
Evan, be the change that you wish to see in the world.
I might.
Let's
make
do
it happen.
Let's get
buddy.
our finishes early.
All right.
Next up, we have Malamar V and Malamar VMAX. Malamar V has a dark colorless. You switch your opponent's bench with their active, do 30 damage to active. Dark colorless. Brain Shake does 130 and uses. And then Malamar VMAX has 310 hit points with dark colorless doing Giganto Jammer for 180. Your opponent reveals their hand, chooses one card that you find, put down the bottom of your deck. This is like a definite maybe for me. Excuse me. I know like a lot of people in Japan are trying to make this work as like the easy Dragapult counter, but the problem being the attack cost is expensive with no acceleration for Dark right now. There's a few people trying to like make Weavile GX Darks with this to combat Dragapult. I do love, like, with his attack, you get to look and pick the card from your opponent's hand to put on the bottom of the deck, and that goes to the bottom of the deck and doesn't shuffle in. So I think, like, with some circumstances around it, it gets better. Maybe it's a good card. I won't say expanded, even though that's where my mind was going, because everything else is better expanded. But I don't see it as much more than a maybe right now, but the attack is really cool.
I feel like if you're gonna have a control-y attack, like Inteleon, like we just got done talking about Inteleon, and it's like, oh, that was cool because it was single energy, but now you have a 3 energy cost, and now that just kind of goes out. I mean, if we're saying maybe for Inteleon, tripling the energy cost isn't gonna make us like this more, so I'm gonna say no.
I like to see all the killjoys, who design the cards. Every time they make a card that says, "Oh, for this attack, you shuffle a random card from your opponent's hand into their deck," I'm like, all right, that's worthless. But this cheers me up just a little bit because this is better. But there are enough effects in this game that'll just shuffle the deck. So putting a card at the bottom, I mean, all it takes is for them to play, just a simple item like an energy spinner or a cherish ball or a mysterious treasure, and bam, that card has been randomized to some other spot. I say no.
I would just like to, I wanted to add that I didn't think about until now. Okay, so just imagine if Trev Noir only put back 1 card instead of 2. That's what you're getting with Malamar. It's a worse Trevnoir. It's a nerfed Trev.
You have to evolve to get it out, sure.
And it only does one card instead of two.
What's next on the list?
Next up, we have Milotic V. It's a water type with 210 hit points. Water double colorless, Aqua Impact. It does 10 damage plus 50 more for every colorless near opponent's active Pokemon retreat cost. And then for water and 3 colorless energy, it does Hypno Splash, doing 150 and putting your opponent's active Pokemon to sleep. This card, I don't know. I'm somewhere between maybe and yes, just because it's got everything it needs to be good. You have Absol to add retreat cost. You have Mines to add retreat cost. But then, as of right now, you have things like Zeraora that zeros a retreat cost, and for weakness. I know there's been like a version of this with ADP where it does, you're getting more prizes and everything. The Aqua Impact, is the star of the show, being able to scale really well. Let's just say something has a base 2 retreat cost that's 110. You play Galar Mines, it goes up to 210. It's going to knock out a lot of, even the basic V Pokemon. It'll knock out some of the lower tier X's. But it may struggle to get the right numbers for some of the V. I think maybe even... we're getting Charizard VMAX next set, and everybody loves to play Charizard, so maybe this sees like a surge in play just because it will hit that Charizard for weakness, but it's either a high, maybe...
I love Milotic as a Pokemon, and I did top 8 with Noodle Dude. But, you do have, like Zach said, everything that Zach said, so I won't repeat it. But I feel like for as much as this has going for it, it's kind of underwhelming for me. And, if your opponent has 2 retreat costs, you would need 2 Absols, which is taking up 2 spots on the bench with the Galar Mine. So you need to have stadium control and 2 Absols on the bench. So not only is that taking up deck space, but it's taking up bench space. I feel like it's a trap card. It seems good, but I feel like if it has this much going for it, then it should be like a spectacular card. But I can't say that it's a spectacular card.
So is that a yes, no, maybe?
I'm going to say no.
I was about to say... I was about to say maybe. You really, you almost convinced me, Zach, by bringing up Galar Mine. But... So the Asleep attack, Asleep isn't good. There's too many ways to get out of the bench. And this Pokemon, it's going to get full blitzed. So I say no.
Did I convince you, Nick?
No. I was about to say maybe because of Galar Mine, but I'm still saying no.
Oh, you were no to start, and then...
And Zach almost brought me to maybe, but I'm still no.
Oh, okay.
All right. Next up, we have Ninetales V. It's a fire type with 200 hit points. For fire double colorless, it has the Ninetale transformation. It chooses one of your opponent's active Pokemon's attacks and uses it as this attack. And then for 4 energy, you have Flamethrower, 180, discard energy from this Pokemon. This is a maybe from me. On the lower end of maybe. It's one of those cards where it depends on how good is your opponent's active attack, and it also has the drawback of every fire card that we will talk about of it's competing against every other good fire Pokemon. Does Blacephalons excuse me, Does it outclass any of the other fire type Pokemon that are seeing play right now? I don't know. But the thing that Def keeps as a maybe is that as every other Pokemon gets better, Ninetale transformation gets better because it doesn't say copy of V or VMAX's attack. It just copies.
I will point out that it can use GX attacks because it says choose one of your. It doesn't like Mimikyu says accept a GX attack. This one just says anything. And unlike Mimikyu, it doesn't have to be the same thing as last turn. It's whatever you want. So if you're going against an ADP deck, ooh man. So let's say you're going against ZDP, and let's say you go first, so you get that attachment, and then they go and then they attach. All you have to do. Well, oh, never mind. I was gonna say you go welder and attach, and then bring up the ADP, or you bring up where you use Ninetales, Nine Temptations. So you could still welder turn 2, but then you use altered creation before they do. So then if they want to use altered, they'll have to waste a turn, and then you know what I mean. You get
well. The only problem with that though is you're not getting the plus effect of taking the extra prize cards unless you're using an Aurora energy and 30 extra energy. Get the plus effect, and you're already doing enough damage that the plus 30 is really kind of.
Oh no, I'm saying if you're going against ADP, let's say, okay, so Ninetales V won't be its own deck, but I think it deserves a one-of copy in Firebox, if Firebox still exists in the future format. So any deck that uses Welder, I think this has a spot in it, and you go against ADP, and it's easier to copy altered creation than it is for them to use it. You see what I mean? So then you get a turn ahead of them, and then you can knockoutization, and be good game.
But you didn't get the extra effect of the attack because you don't have the extra water attached.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Okay, thank you.
So if
that just immediately made it poopy.
If you pay 4 energy on the attack, you would get it if you were playing Aurora energy. But the way it's set right now, you wouldn't get the extra prize. You just get the extra damage.
Yeah, that just completely. This is yet again every single time you see what you want to see. It's I'll do this, and this. It's no, that's not how it works. So yet again, Evan misinterprets things that make it look better than it actually is.
Been there, done that. Is that a no, Evan?
I mean, I still feel like it has a place. If y'all want to talk more about it later, we can move on, but
sure.
I think we should move on.
Yeah, Ninetale transformation. I know when I'm going to use it. I'm never going to have a good attack to pick from. 180 damage is less than Reshizard's Flare Strike, leaving me disappointed. No.
All right. Coming up next on the list is Palossand. It's a psychic with 140 hit points. For double colorless, it has Sand Burial. You discard a card from the top of your deck. This Pokemon has Curse Shovel attached to it. Discard more cards. And then for Psychic Double Colorless Super Absorption, it does 90 damage, and you heal 30 damage from this Pokemon. So before we can really talk about this card, let's talk about Curse Shovel for a second, just so you know what the effect of it is. If the Pokemon that this card is attached to is knocked out, you discard, I think it's 2 cards off the top of your... Yeah, discard the top 2 cards of your opponent's deck. So, we're seeing the mill strategy here. The 2 energy on Sand Burial is not bad because of twin energy. You can mill 3 cards, and then when they knock out Palossand, you get 2 more cards. So, one Palossand could discard 5 cards for you. The problem that I think a lot of cards have when we're talking about mill decks is, do they outclass resource management or in Guru at the time being. Being able to resource management like your Bill Elbas and Bryson Man, being able to get back with Bill Elbas, I think it's hard to justify any other attack in a mill right now. So I'm going to say
this card's a hard no for me. If you want to talk about it, we can talk about it at the end.
This card is a niche card, and someone's going to find a use for it. I'm holding out hope. Maybe. What's next?
All right. So next up we have Probopass. It's basically metal 100 points, gravity drop. It does 10 plus 30 more damage for each colorless in your opponent's active Pokemon's retreat cost, and heavy impact is metal colorless for 120 damage. I'm just going to give this guy a no. If we can't give Milotic a hard yes, who has like a better version of this attack, I think like Noodle Dude was good just because of Malamar being prevalent. I think like this guy is going to hit enough.
So this is just a metal mustache dude. Instead of Noodle Dude, it's just mustache dude, right?
Correct. Yes.
It's the exact same thing. That's funny. Mustache dude. So no more Noodle Dude. We're gonna have mustache dude. I think that's funny, but
it doesn't have the same ring.
Mustache dude. Mustache man. Oh my gosh! It's Noodle Dude and Mustache Man.
Evan, congratulations on coming up for the title for our next video.
Yeah, it's
clickbait.
Oh man, I feel like I had enough fun with Noodle Dude at that one cup. Yeah, I'm gonna say no for Mustache Man.
I vote no on this as well.
Wait! Oh yeah. Man, I was gonna say Galarian Berserker, but then it's like, but you need to be using Absol.
Correct.
Yeah.
Wait, you do have the Galar Mines now. That's plus 60.
I'm still not.
So that's plus 60 though. Oh man, I'm gonna say maybe. I got hope.
Oh. What's next on the list?
All right, next up we have Rillaboom V and Rillaboom X. This is a V that we got recent. Forest Feast for grass, searches for 2 grass Pokemon, then puts them onto your bench, then shuffles your deck. For 4 energy, does 220 damage. You do 30 damage to yourself. And then our VMAX boasts 330 hit points with 1 colorless energy, do Scratch for 50. And then for 4 energy, we have Max Barrage. It does 130 plus 50 for each grass energy you discard from him, up to 3 grass energies. I'm going to give this guy a solid B. I can see it in like a deck with the non-V Rillaboom that accelerates grass from the deck. You can play it with Roweggs, and even like the V's pretty good, being able to put like 2 Grookey's onto your bench, or a Grookey and a Roweggs, and swap out next. The Max Barrage can one-shot ADP, which is ace. It's got like the general, I can 2-shot every VMAX that the VMAXs seem to have right now. So I think it has like all the right tools, but you're going to be playing a stage 2 in the deck, and that just seems rough.
Booloo! No, this card's terrible. I don't understand. Like, okay, I get that they want to like nerf card. Okay, so if they keep this up, then it's fine. It's been irritating me that I've been looking at a lot of these, I guess VMAX specifically, but it seems like they want the attack to be good, but they keep capping them. You know what I mean? It's like Barrage Max. It's like you may discard up to 3. Like, nope, you can't go beyond 3. It's like, well, why? What if I want to spend 4 energy to get a 1-shot? It's like, no, we can't have that. No, we can't have that. So that just, I mean, for the card individually, that kills me. But then on top of that, you want to run a stage 2 with Rillaboom. I mean, maybe even if... So basically what I'm saying, that even if we had an alternative to Rillaboom, this card still wouldn't be good. So it's a no for me.
I'm going to say this card is extremely sensitive to what kind of metagame you're going in. My math skills are telling me that you max out at 280 damage. So if you can get a 3 prizer off of 280 damage, that's good for you. You still have to charge it up next turn. Someone has a use for this, so I'm going to say maybe.
All right. Next up, we have Sandaconda V, fighting type with 220 hit points, Sand Crown, 30 damage for fighting. Attach a fighting energy from your discard pile to this Pokemon. Sand Breath, 220, discard for fighting colorless, and discard 2 energy from this. I'm going to give it a no, and the only thing that will make that higher is if Sandaconda VMAX comes out and we need to play Sand.
I thought they already revealed Sandaconda, but I guess that's just a mistake on my part. But yeah, this card looks terrible.
I love it. It's fighting type. It has a big number. I say yes.
Yeah, I'm not meaning to slow us down. No, there's not a Sandaconda VMAX yet. Just the Sand. All right. Sigalith, Psychic, 110 hit points. Strike back. If this Pokemon is your active Pokemon is damaged by an opponent's attack, place 3 damage counters on the attacking Pokemon. And Psychic damage, this does 30 damage plus 10 more for each damage counter on the active Pokemon. I want to say no. I see where they're going with this. This will probably be great in your local pre-release that you don't get to have Corona.
Ooh.
So
It's... Alright. So if you run one of it with Dragapult... See, the thing is that Wobbuffet, we saw, like, Wobbuffet bats be a thing. And, Dragapult can, like, easily set up these numbers to where, like, oh, I just need 30 plus and then whatever I had. Okay. And then especially if you run Spell Tag with the Sigilyph or Spell Tag with this, I mean, just imagine if you go the new Horror Energy and a Spell Tag and then get a meaningful knockout with Psychic Assault, and then you're saying, if you attack this, you take 5 just because the horror and the counterattack. You're knocking out a single prizer, and then I get spell tag damage. I feel like it's a yes for me.
This card brings me back all the way to Druddigon from Noble Victories with Rough Skin, where if it gets damaged while in the active spot, you put 2 damage counters on the attacking Pokemon. And there are other Pokemon that have this mechanic. I don't think that 3 damage counters is going to win you the game. I'll say no.
We can talk about it later. Do you want to talk about it later? Or
sure.
Talk about it now?
Yeah, we'll talk about it later if you want.
Okay.
All right. Next up, we have Spiritomb for Dark. It's Dark Pokemon, 60 hit points. For Dark, it does Grudge Split. You discard 1 card from the top of each player's deck. Regretful Droplets put damage counters on your opponent's active Pokemon equal to the number of discard. It's a slightly more expensive Hatterene on a basic with the Regretful Droplets, which is nice. Again, I think I'd almost rather be doing damage, especially since this guy could hit a Dragapult for. Grudge Split doesn't really do it for me. It's that attack that if you're going second and this is your active and you had to attach energy to it, but nowhere else are you really going to Grudge Split. I guess like you'll have that one games where you're opponent in deck and you Grudge Split for the game, but
they keep wanting to bring back Night March and Vespiquen, but they keep printing terrible cards. And the problem is that Vespiquen and Night March were good in that specific meta. And people are already having enough trouble knocking out Mega Manectric. I mean, that was one of the things, the bad matchups. It's like, oh, we have to watch out for Mega Manectric because we have a hard time going over 200 or whatever it was. You know what I mean? It was like that specific number that Mega Manectric had where it's like, oh, I don't know if I can get through that. And now you don't have Battle Compressor, you don't have Shaman. We just got back Professor's Research, so that's a plus, but you don't have anything that they used to have back in the day. And all the cards have way more HP. Like, you're not killing a VMAX. And on top of that, your energy cost is abysmal. Like, they're doing a horrible job with it's like they want, but they don't want to bring back Night March. You know what I mean? It's like they want that in the game, but they don't want Night March back. It's they don't want that single energy attachment because they're like, oh, that's what made it so good. If I can't just do a single energy attachment, then it'll be balanced. But that's not how it works. And that's a whole discussion about card design, so I'll shelve that for later.
Was that a maybe?
It's a no. That's a hard no.
This card is going to disappoint a lot of enthusiastic people. I don't think that the right set of cards has been released for this yet, but it's possible, so maybe.
All right. Next up, we have one of the poster boys for this set, Toxtricity V and Toxtricity VMAX. We actually have two different Toxtricity Vs that you can choose from. Recently, there was the promo with 1 energy. You energize, attach a energy card, discard pile to this Pokemon. Lightning, colorless for 120, and poison the opponent's active Pokemon to do 120 damage. And then the top set. For 1 lightning does 20 and poisons, and for 2 lightning and colorless, electric riot does 90 plus 90 more if your opponent's defending Pokemon is poisoned. And then Toxtricity VMAX with 320 hit points has Giganto Riot for lightning colorless. It's 160 plus 80 more if your opponent is poisoned. This card gets a yes for me. It just scales really well. It's got the Garbodor for consistent poison. I may be partial to this card just because I think like Toxtricity is a great design of a Pokemon in general. But I think it's.
I think this is going to be one of those cards where it's good until it's not. When we did the trial series, it looked good to me, and it seems like it has potential. Having E-Power, and the thing that really does it is the three cards that make this card good is Speed Draw Energy, the basic Toxtricity V, having access to E-Power, and Thunder Mountain, and Tapu Koko. If it wasn't Lightning type, didn't have a good, even just the basic Toxtricity Poison Jab, I think that's so good. Like, just for a single energy 20, just go back and watch the trial series. It shines. But I really feel like, and I know this is going into the future, but I guess it's all right to mention it, but I guess it's fair to mention it because by the time we get tournaments back, it'll definitely be out. Um, it hasn't been completely released, but I think there's going to be future cards that outclass Toxtricity.
Sure. It's
going to be a
possible.
maybe for me.
Yeah. This card, when it comes out, it will help define the meta, if not be like the #1 card. We have a video on this. A link to it is in the description. This is a hard yes from me.
All right. Next up, we have an has 150 hit points. The first attack is lightning, colorless for plus, doing an additional 20 damage for all the energy attached to all of your Pokemon. And then for lightning, 3 colorless electric beam, 170 damage. He takes 30 damage. I want to just go ahead and say this card is a no from me. Like, if you're the type of person who just wants to play like the off-the-wall decks, this is a good starting off-the-wall deck because like Powerful Storm, if you play like a 4/4/4 line of Vikavolt and you rare candy your Glibbins into Vikavolt and then you play like the battery charge above, you could just slam them all down real quick and get 140 damage on the field. Powerful Storm attack. But it just doesn't feel great at all because you're not hitting any real big, I won't say big numbers, but like any important numbers, because it's not always about big numbers. It's about like important things. I'd almost rather just have the 2 energy to be able to use electric beam. The 30 damage is so inconsequential because it's probably getting 1 shot anyway, but it's a no on my.
It's a hard no from me, but I'll talk about it later.
Gotcha. I'm also going to say no on this.
All right. So now we're moving on to supporters and energy cards. First up, the boss is back. You can choose one of your opponent's bench Pokemon and switch with their active Pokemon. It's a yes. I mean, it's a strong card. It's going to mess up a lot of decks that involve that relied on having guys sit on their high. It's strong. It's not like Guzma strong, but it's.
Looks like
was that air, or did you just cut out?
Yeah, Zach.
Oh,
was that
sorry. What I said was it's a strong card. It's not as strong as Guzma, but it's really.
Okay. I can't believe that they printed this card. I think it's a horrible step in a horrible direction in the game. I'll talk about it later, but this card will definitely see play, but I hate the card. And if you want, we can talk about it later.
I'm going to vote yes on this card. The benefit of being able to draw a Pokemon into the active and knock it out. How many times have we heard Lysander for game, Guzma for game as the last action of a match? We're just going to hear Boss's order for game. Same old, same old. I wish they hadn't printed it, but it gets a yes from me. What's the next card?
All right, next up we have Capture Energy. This card provides colorless while it's attached to a Pokemon, and when you attach it from your hand to one of your Pokemon, your deck for a basic Pokemon, put it onto your bench, then shuffle your deck. It's kind of reminiscent of the old Call Energy, where you could give up your attack to get 2 basic Pokemon onto your bench, if I remember correctly. Right now, I'm going to give it a maybe. It's good in like the Phalanx deck. It can get better as other cards are released, but it also has like just slightly more limited uses right now, but it's not.
I just want to clarify something. You said supporters earlier. Does that mean that was all the supporters that we're going to look at? Because you jumped to energy.
Sorry, trainer, supporters, and energy are all.
Okay, I just didn't know if Giovanni was the only supporter that you wanted to look at. Capture Energy is a hard no for me.
I'll also say no on capture energy.
All right. Going on to Burning Scarf. It's a tool card you attach to one of your Pokemon, and if the fire Pokemon this card attached to is your active and is damaged by an attack, the attacking Pokemon is now burned. Ooh, I'm going to go with no. I think they're just better tool cards right now. It's limited to fire type Pokemon. I just
Hard no for me. This card will never be good.
This card is not going to define the fire type meta, and burn is not going to make the difference between winning and losing a game. And hey, by the way, have you heard of these things? They're called attacks. They're a really good way to get burn on the defending Pokemon. I vote no. What's
all
the next
right.
card?
Next up, have the Crush Shovel that we.
Just keep going.
Okay. If the Pokemon it's attached to gets knocked out by an damage from an opponent's attack, you discard the top 2 cards of your deck. I think anytime we have a mill type, this card is going to. Anytime we don't have a mill arch type.
The big thing for me is that, it doesn't progress your game. So it's not going to be played in traditional decks. But in mill decks, it accelerates your win condition. So it's like, why would you not play? It's basically like a choice band, but for mill decks.
I agree
so
with that
it's
analysis.
a yes for me.
This card is niche. It's going to be used in mill. Outside of mill, it would be a maybe, but I'm going to go with yes.
All right. Next up, so I was left off the list here, but we'll talk about Dan real quick, just because Dan. You draw 2 cards.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, you draw 2 cards. Then when your opponent play rock paper scissors, if you win, draw 2 more cards. It's a hard no, but it's a hilarious card. So.
How long should a game of rock paper scissors take? And what happens if you tie?
If you tie, you just keep going. Maybe we need a
so you
judge
just keep
ball.
Going?
A judge ball for rock paper scissors.
So, all right, so you play rock paper scissors, but you just keep tying, and then you stall the game.
Yeah, and then you have a judge interfere.
But then they call time in the round, and there's a bunch of judges and players all around you watching this 99 game rock paper scissors.
I believe,
and the judges want the game to progress, but it's not progressing.
I believe if you get to 99, you got some accusations of collusion there. Getting the same thing 99 times in a row, the odds on that are pretty low, to say the least.
Did you ever watch that episode of Regular Show? They die 99 times and break the world. It's like one of you must die if you don't win or something.
Well, they should buy a lottery ticket. I'm going to vote no on this card as well.
All right, next up we have Full Bucket. Search your deck for 2 water energy, reveal them, put them into your hand, then shuffle. And then you play as many items as you want during your turn before your. I give the card a maybe. It just needs a good water Pokemon and a good water accelerator. Right now we have Frostmoth, so we have half of that equation. We just need something else to go with it to benefit from having all this extra water energy hand.
We've got the tools. All we need is the attacker. And no, Lapras is poop. And no, Milotic is poop. We need a real good water attacker to make this good. So it's a yes for me.
We already have Energy Spinner, which is better, so I say no.
All right. Next up, we have Galar Mine. The retreat cost of each active Pokemon, both yours and your opponent's, is more. Card is a yes for me. I think it's obviously not in every deck, but the decks that can utilize it are.
I can't believe they printed this card. I think it's obscenely busted. I think it's so busted. It's a hard yes for me. And if you want to talk about it, we can talk about it later.
This is going to really help a lot of those. You do this much more damage for this more retreat cost in your opponent's active Pokemon attacks. And, hey, you get to increase the retreat cost. So, that's just good just in general. I'm going to put yes on this. This is going to define the meta. People are going to have to find ways to play around it. There's already people playing 4-switch in decks, and we're just going to see more of that. So, yes.
All right, next up we have Horror Psychic Energy. Provides 1 Psychic Energy while it's attached to a Pokemon. When the Psychic Pokemon this is attached to damage by an opponent's attack, you put 2 damage counters on the attacking Pokemon. This is a yes for so many reasons. One, it's not limited to being attached to just Psychic Pokemon, and it provides Psychic whenever you attach it. So that's, the fact that it still puts the 2 damage on there, even if you get knocked out, is great itself. So if you have 2 on there, you get put 4 damage counters on the defending Pokemon. I don't see what's not.
What was the name of this again?
Horror Psychic Energy.
Oh, okay. I just full zoned out. Yeah, this card is really good. It's a hard yes for me.
So I downvoted the Sigilyph a few cards up just because I was like, hey, 3 damage counters is not going to make the difference. It's not going to win you a game. And hey, maybe 2 damage counters from Horror Psychic Energy is not going to win you a game, but you can put it on any Psychic Pokemon, and it also provides energy. So this card has a wide variety of uses. So I'm going to say yes.
All right. So we didn't want to print, rival card again. So we printed Milo. Discard up to 2 cards from your hand, then draw twice as many cards you discarded. I don't want to draw 3 for sure, and then I have to discard 2 cards to get 4 cards. Not playing it, it's a no.
This seems like one of those starter kit things.
I agree.
It's a no.
Hey, maybe
you're going to get this in your pre-release that you're not going to go to.
Exactly. Maybe this could combo with the 2 of the Pokemon from the set that do more damage or place damage counters, based on the number of Pokemon in your discard pile. But, there's just no obvious combo with this. I mean, maybe to get Lightning in the discard pile for Tapu Koko Prism Star, but even then there's already better ways to do that. So until someone shows me an obvious combo that we're missing here, hard no.
All right. Next up is Nugget. You play this card when you draw it from your deck at the start of your turn before putting it into your hand, and then you can draw. This is a soft maybe for me for all the same reasons when we talked about Town Evolution Pokemon. Yes, Oranguru and Magcargo set it up, but Marnie and Reset Stamp keep you from getting to pull it off consistently. When it works, it's going to feel really good, and when it doesn't, you're going to hope to get it back.
This has potential that I'm missing. It's a yes for me, but we just don't know yet.
For those of you who played Yu-Gi-Oh, this is a Heart of the Underdog, but for Pokemon. So I think it's cool. I want to play it. I just need someone to show me that it's good. So maybe.
Okay, we'll play with DX and Oranguru, so we get an extra turn and gear.
You could timeless and then draw the number.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Nice.
All right. Next up, we have Oleana. Discard 2 cards from your hand. In order to play this card, your opponent reveals their hand. Choose a trainer you find there and put it at the bottom of your opponent's deck. This is a maybe from me. Only because you don't know what it's in your opponent's hand unless you have Lavender Town. You've controlled their top deck, and if you've let them draw into a trainer, they're probably playing. So you're quite likely not to get very much effect out of this card for the cost.
Ooh, Oleana. Oh, man. It's a maybe for me. We can talk about it later.
I'm just afraid they're going to get the trainer card back. I say no.
Next up is one of my favorite cards out of the set, Scoop Up Net. You get to put a Pokemon excluding Vs and GXs into your hand, discard all cards attached to it. Important to note is that when they talk about Pokemon V, VMAXs are considered Pokemon V, so you can't just VMAX and then pick up. Otherwise, this would make Copperajah ridiculous. With like things like Galar Mine coming out, being able to play this with your Jirachi is really good. Evan talked about earlier the Mewtwo and Oranguru combo to get supporters back. This is really good. I mentioned that you could play with that chat out. There's a lot of good applications to it.
This card is broken. It's a hard yes for me.
I'm going to say yes as well. There's so many uses for this card we haven't even thought of yet, and it's going to be a long list. So yes.
Especially when expand it with like.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Don't get me started.
All right. Next up, we have a reprint of an old oldie but a goodie Skyla. Search your deck for a trainer card, reveal it, and put it into your hand deck. I have to give this one a no. Skyla is always like it was best when there weren't a whole lot of strong draw to play. But with like Marnie and Professor's Research, I don't know why I would play this over either of those. And I think there's a like Rotom phone where you can look at 5 cards and then stack your deck. So it feels like almost just a better way to try to fish for a trainer than this card, but I'm going with a no for right.
Did you say Sonia?
No, Skyla.
No, Skyla.
Yeah.
Skyla. Okay. Yeah, Skyla is it's a no, but it's like a niche use.
Yeah, there's going to be maybe some minor situations, some rare situations where you're going to be able to use this, but there's just enough good draw in the game, enough good ways to set up in the game that I can't imagine myself using a Skyla. I'll say no.
All right. Next up, we have Sonia. Search your deck for up to 2 basic Pokemon or up to 2 basic energy. Reveal them, put them into your hand, then shuffle your deck. I'll actually let Evan talk about this first since he seemed to talk about.
I think you cut out, but that card is terrible. I'll just save you the trouble, and yeah, that card's terrible. Don't even bother. This is going to be the card that you get from the pre-release that you don't go to.
I was originally reading this.
See, I thought
card.
you were.
Yeah. Go on, Zach.
I thought you were actually excited about this, Evan. That's why I let you lead off with it. But this wants to be Roseanne's Research.
That's what I was about to say.
Yeah. I think it should say, that'll just be a card design thing that we can talk about later. We should have this is I know this is like off topic, but we should have a thing where it's like what would make these good what would make these cards good. But that could be like a different video. I don't want to get too off track.
Yeah, we'll come back to that at another time. So overall card.
Yeah.
Next up we have Speed Lightning. This card provides lightning energy. Card. We're going to talk about this in a lightning deck because excuse me. Outside of lightning, it would be just a maybe just because it's a free lightning energy that's searchable with Guzma But in lightning, it's a hard yes just because, like, if you watch our video about Boltund and Electricity V, you'll see how many times like speed draw just is.
I think it's ridiculously good. It's a hard yes.
Yeah, you're going to play this in a lightning deck. You're going to draw the nuts. You're going to have a great time. You're going to have lots of fun. You're going to kick some butts. Go for it. Yes.
All right. Next up is Tool Scrapper. Discard up to 2 Pokemon tools from either player's Pokemon. I'm glad that we have some sort of tool control back, especially with like Shovel coming in. It'll help some decks when they struggled against guys that put Big Charm on them. It's a little. I like it better than Lysander Lab. So many times, it's like I'd be in my head back and forth between Lysander Labs or another.
It's a hard yes for me, and this can go into like. There is something I want to bring up about card design, but it's off topic. But it's a hard yes for me.
I'm looking forward to seeing a big charmed Pokemon with 30, 20, or 10 HP left, discarding the big charm with Tool Scrapper, getting some prizes, and then, knocking out their active, hopefully, and just doing something else during that turn, doing another attack, doing more damage, knocking out a second Pokemon just because you played Tool Scrapper. And also, I'm looking forward to getting rid of those annoying shovels and, more important, those annoying metal frying pans. Hard yes on this.
All right. Next up is Training Court. Once during each player's turn, that player may choose a basic energy card from their discard pile, reveal it to their. This is a very low maybe for me, like very close to a no. It's not.
Poopy card. Skip. Bad. Keep going.
This card does not define the meta as soon as it enters, despite its universality. It's basic energy. Everyone plays basic energy. It's not specific to a type, but it's just not good enough.
All right. Next up is our last stadium turf field. Once during each player's turn, that player may search their deck for a grass evolution Pokemon, reveal it, and put it into their hand. Then that their deck. I see this card as better once Roweggs rotates out. While Roweggs is still around, I feel like you want your evolution card in your deck. It's okay for like Rillaboom because you don't want Roweggs evolution attack on your Rillaboom. You'd rather use it on like to go up to the V Rillaboom. But overall, I'd say this is a no for me just because it's so limited use. Maybe, like I said, when it isn't around and you want S evolutions.
This card will be used with grass types until they print an actually good card. Like, the only reason that they'll play it is because it helps my grass Pokemon. But as soon as a card does a better effect, they'll instantly ditch this card. So it's a no for me.
I'm going to say maybe on this. There was that Pokemon we were looking at where you get to evolve it, put damage counters on a Pokemon, shuffle back in. Yeah, that one. That's kind of my fantasy combo right now. We'll see if it actually works, but I'll say maybe. What's next?
All right, then we have Twin Energy. This card provides 2 colorless energy. If it's attached to a V or GX, it provides 1 colorless energy instead. Right now, for for me, this is a maybe. It's a super good card. Outside of failing, don't know where you're going to play it yet, though. Once the right attacker comes along, shoot straight up to good. I'm glad they kind of put the V and GX restriction on it, so it's not abused by things like Snorlax V,
Celosaur.
Yeah, Celosaur. I will say, like, it expanded this card's even better just because you can put you now have 8
You have 8 double colorless energy
Pokemon. Yeah, so that it's either a maybe for standard or a yes.
I don't think it would have been that big of a deal to say Pokemon V and Gmax get to use it. But that's like a card design thing. It's fine. It's a maybe for me. It's okay.
This card is going to be very valuable for the decks that it's being used in, but it's not going to be meta defining, so I'll put it down as a maybe.
And I'll kind of piggyback with Evan there. Right now, Pokemon V or VMAX using it wouldn't be a big deal. We don't know what we're going to see in future Vs and VMAXs, so it may have just been a little bit of future.
Maybe. I mean, we can talk about it later.
Yeah. All right, so the last card we're going to talk about, we're not sure if it's going to be in the set, but it's got reason to think it is. Galarian. It has an ability called Evolution. Once during your turn before your attack, you may discard 2 cards from your hand. If you do, search your deck for 1 Galarian Berserker, reveal it, put it into your hand, then deck. Sadly, like as excited as I was for this card when Sword and Shield first came out, I'm probably going to give it a no just because it would have been really good during Sword and Shield. But now that we've got all these other Pokemon in options, I just don't think it's strong enough to keep up.
This, like I keep saying, this goes to card design. I love this ability. Like Duskull had it too, where you like sacrifice something, but then you can evolve. I think what would make stage 2s good is if like all the basics had that ability, where you sacrifice something and then get to evolve it. And then the stage 1 has top entry, and then the stage 2 is good. I think that would like really help in making cards viable, but this specifically, it's a yes for me.
I'm going to be absolutely worthless on this last card and just second what Evan said. Yes.
All
so
right.
If I said no, you would have just said no.
Yeah, probably. That was a good set of reviews we did there. I don't know. I think we still got time for comments. Did anyone want to throw in any last words?
Did we? When all the cards that we said we talk about later, is that going to be like a separate thing, or how's that going to work?
If you've got like 1 or 2 cards you want to talk about right now, go for it.
There was a bunch of cards that I wanted to talk about.
Two tops. We'll do the other ones in a different video.
So the number 1 that I'll talk about is Hatterene. Do you care how long I talk? Like these, it's like an explanation.
Sure. Here, let's cut it off at like 1 minute.
So with Hatterene, I'm thinking you use it. While we've been talking about this video, I've been storming up a sort of Stolly deck, which would have like 2 or 3 Hatterene on the bench, and just every turn mind hatting. Like I think that would just get so annoying after a while. Like you go Jesse and James and mind hat and just obliterate your opponent's hand, and then you spam chips. And then if your opponent has like, I don't know, what is it, like Zacian, oh, but they have to end their turn, and then you just mind hat again. And I definitely see like where like the Inteleon thing can come in, where like this bouncing, because like in Sword of Shield we got like Team Yell Grunt, where you can bounce stuff back to the hand. I feel like this is where the Hattering shines. Like you bounce cards back into their hand, and then you Jesse and James mind hat, that kind of thing. Or you just keep 3 Hattering on the bench, and then you can have Polka Dolls in the active, or you can have Galarian Wheezing to like shut down any energy acceleration.
Ooh, I don't like that.
But then
card.
you also use
I like
Galarmine. Sorry.
Oh, so I still don't like the wheezing, but I like Polka Dolls though. I like your thinking.
You also throw down Galarmine, and you continually gust up stuff. You know, you don't even have to use Wheezing. You can use Guru, and you like keep cycling. You don't rely on flips on hammers anymore. You go like Surge, Yell Grunt, Hattering. So you know what I mean? You reset Stamp, and then Hattering. Like you get this kind of kill combo thing going, where you'll have like Zacian and Cincino like setting up stuff, and then you get to a point where you like shift into like the kill combo, sort of like Pidgeotto control. And I guess instead of Pidgeotto control, it becomes like Hatterene hand destruction, and it's kind of like a weird version of it, and I'd definitely like to work on it in the future.
Sure. Well, that's a mighty good combo there. Was there any there was another card you wanted to talk about? We're gonna try to. So we're at 2:26. We want to try to keep this under 2.5 hours. So real quick, what was another thing you wanted to talk about?
I guess we could talk about. I'll say that a lot of this is a more general thing, but like specifically looking at Milotic, there's a lot of cards that get revealed in sets where it's like, oh, that looks so good, and this can be boiled down to it's a trap card. But I feel like there's a lot of cards that we look at and it's like, ooh, that's so cool. But I feel like so many things are like disappointing. And this could be saved for a card design video, but I'll say I'm overall disappointed with this set. But I'm proud of a lot of things they do, like top entry, specifically, looking at the Galarian Meowth. I guess the last thing I could mention before hopping off is Boss's Orders. A quick rambling about Boss's Orders.
Ramble on. Let's hear it, man.
I have a big issue with this card. I really don't like that they printed this. Oh god. I feel like ADP Zacian is just so I can't even describe. I think Boss's Command is such. This isn't the time to print that card.
Yeah,
I think they should have.
Here's what grinds my gears, Evan. I mean, the character is Giovanni. Is he even in Sword and Shield, the video game? Does it even fit the theme?
I mean, but that's not the issue. I mean, God, I have a really big issue, and this can be continued in a card design video. And I read this article today, and I know this is completely different games, but it was comparing Wizard 101 to Pirate 101, but it connected those to Magic the Gathering. And I don't know much about Magic, but like I know enough about card games to like understand. And I feel like I would like to write it would be cool if I could write an article or make a video that would like connect that to Pokemon, because we were this is like, I guess this will be like a teaser for a future video.
Yeah.
We were in a car ride back home from like our last League Cup marathon of the year. I think we went up to like the north or something. Nick, you know.
We went to
but
Richmond
we were
and
talking.
Lynchburg.
Yeah, and it was the last cup marathon of our season, and we were talking about a whole bunch of stuff. And we were talking about the game and the game mechanics, and you asked me, Nick, like, what would you do to fix it? And I said, I don't know. And you were like, oh my gosh, what? And I was like, yes, I don't know. It's like a fundamental thing, but I just can't put my name on it. I was like, but I found this article today, and I was like, oh my gosh, I found the solution. This explains it. And I would like to put it's so cool how you can like look at other card games and like put things together. So this guy, I mean, I'll reference the article in the future video, but
Sure.
in a quick rundown, he takes the modern format. It is two formats of Magic, and unlike Pokemon, they don't have a rotation in these two formats. I think it was Modern and Legacy, and he compared that to Wizard 101 and Pirate 101. And if you don't know, Wizard 101 is like a card game, and Pirate 101 is like chess and a card game mixed together. And he was comparing Wizard 101 to the modern format of Magic, and he was comparing Pirate 101 to the legacy format. And it showed like, wow, these are the problems with Wizard 101. And I immediately saw that with Pokemon. And in a future video, I would like to compare all three of those games together to show what my issue during the car ride was and explain that.
This is the kind of content I would like, because there are analogs between all games. You know, there are parallels between football and Pokemon, and between, you know, soccer and football, and you know, every game can in some capacity be compared to another. So I like this kind of stuff.
And I you know, we were in the car ride, and I just said, because you did ask me, I was like, I don't know what I would do. And it's just so cool that I stumbled upon this article that, like, I guess it like opened my eyes, or it's just looking at other games, and there's so much to talk about that people don't talk about. And
well, you think it's really what?
I think it's really interesting how there's so much to talk about that no one talks about.
Sure, I agree with that. I think this is a good place to sign off. Zach had to leave a little early, but thank you for the contributions, and thank myself, and thank Evan for contributing all these reviews. How do we sign off, Evan?
Lamau, Ariado. Goodbye.